Namaste. Guten Morgen, bonjour. And I have now exceeded my international linguistics, so I'm going to leave it there before I get too annoying as well. Firstly, thanks ever so much for everybody for joining Radha and myself today. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes, introducing a little bit about what we do and a little bit about the Dignified Menopause initiative. Then Radha's going to come in and introduce what she does, and then talk about, in essence, why we're working together and what we're hoping to achieve. So if I just share my screen, here we go. I'm just using this in an Adobe because I'm having a fight with PowerPoint. So what is this all about? Well, Dignified Menopause, the idea came about from conversations with Radha and Radha's incredible Dignified Menstruation movement. And we came to the realization that if we're not talking about menstruation, it's highly unlikely we're talking about menopause either. And we need, or that there's a need to encompass the full menstrual life cycle in a lot of the advocacy work we're doing, because there are a large number of people that are being either left out of the conversation or simply not being involved. And so to help Radha celebrate International Dignified Menstruation Day, which, as you're probably aware, is on the 8th of December, we decided to hold what we're calling a Smart Summit. And the slogan is Dignified Menopause, a human right, not a privilege. And it brings together Radha Pudel in Nepal and myself in Scotland and Sarah Williams in Wales. And Sarah and I and Nina Kuipers are part of the Menopause Inclusion Collective. And this is a really important initiative because certainly as far as the UK is concerned, we were becoming concerned that there was the discourse around menopause was becoming increasingly polarized. And it's incredibly important that we don't leave anybody out. We need to hear everybody's thoughts, opinions, so that they're part of the conversation, because we're all part of a common humanity. And we welcome all routes to menopause, whether that's via surgery, whether that's chemical, or whether that's biological. And as part of the commitment that we made this year, alongside Equality Counts and Black Women in Menopause, the Menopause Inclusion Collective made a commitment at the recent Generation Equality Forum in Paris. And we committed to advocate for inclusive spaces, policies, conversations in respect of dignified menopause. And this is incredibly important for us because the work we're doing now it'll change the landscape. We're working to change the narrative so that we can make things easier for those who follow behind us. And I want to just briefly touch on the word dignified, because I was thinking about it, and certainly as far as the UK is concerned, perhaps some people might hear the word dignified and they think it's perhaps a very stately, ordered, perfect meaning to that word, whereas actually what we're referring to, it's the right of a person to be valued and respected for their own sake. And I think if we can keep that definition at the back of our minds the whole time when we're having conversations, it's about, again, I come back to this element of common humanity, and it's about compassion, and it's about trying to make everybody's journey through life as easy and as smooth as we possibly can. And if we think about the word menopause, this is just a snapshot of the word in a whole host of different languages. I've often wondered whether it's the word itself that a lot of people have a problem with, because the word menopause is just so loaded. And I wonder whether, as far as the United Kingdom is concerned, if we changed it to perhaps something, Europeans, they tend to call it climacteric. And I think that that's a far more approachable and palatable term. And I know we shouldn't necessarily have to change language to perhaps meet the needs of whether it's a patriarchal society, but language is powerful. And if a word is so wrapped up in shame and stigma and taboo, I think sometimes just perhaps reworking how we perceive it might be helpful. And so that leads me on, in essence, to the whole point of the reason why Radha and I are here today, is to introduce the Dignified Menopause Summit. We're calling it a Smart Summit. As I said earlier, it's on International Dignified Menstruation Day, which is the 8th of December. And we are aiming to bring together anyone, advocates, activists, quiet disruptors, allies, anybody who's interested about menopause and menstruation, so that we can broaden the lens, because menopause will directly or indirectly potentially impact everyone. It will directly impact 51% of the population. And it doesn't really matter where you're coming from within the narrative. If you can have knowledge and understanding of something, I think you're much better able to meet it head on and to deal with it. So we are still calling for abstracts. We've extended the deadline until the end of August. And currently we've had interest from Australia, India, Uganda, Italy, the United Arab Emirates, as well as over in the United States. And I would really encourage everybody anywhere, if you've just got an interest in menopause, send us your abstract. And perhaps don't be put off by the term abstract. We're just asking for 200 to 300 words on what you'd like to talk about. And we have 4 themes. They're broad themes. They're literally just frameworks, if you like. We'll accept anything on menopause. We're interested in menopause in the work and the home, menopause in education, menopause in the media, and also dignified menstruation equals dignified menopause. And I think it would also be really interesting to think about some of the barriers perhaps that come into play when we're talking about menstruation and menopause, whether they are cultural, societal, or economic. So I would really encourage everybody to have a think about whether they'd like to be part of the summit. It's going to be over Zoom. It'll be a really low-tech platform because we want to encourage as many people as possible to come along and to be part of it. We'd also like you to get involved by spreading the word about the event, but also becoming a solidarity partner by, if you send us your logo, we'll pop it on our website. And it's our way of amplifying all the work that's going on around the world, because I think there's a tendency perhaps to work in silos and become very protectionist. Whereas, I mean, there's a saying, isn't there, if you want to go far, go together. So it's about bringing all voices together and amplifying all these voices, because there's so much going on in the sphere of menopause and menstruation in the world, that it would be really great to have this central place where we can shout about the work that's going on. So if you have a logo, or if you want to get involved, I've popped our email address there, and hopefully you'll get in touch. And that is everything from me. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'll pop the email address in the chat as well, so that if throughout the rest of the event you want to make a note of that. But for the time being, that's all from me, and back to Radha.
Thank you so much, Helen, and warm welcome to everyone. Let me off another program. Many things has already highlighted by Helen, so I will try to connect with the dignity or dignified menstruation, why it is important, why we are making noise, why it is urgent, why it is very high time. I'm trying to say these kind of things. And if you have any questions, we can have a question answer session later. Radhapur Foundation is an NGO, and it initiated the Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation. It aims is to re-examine our past and reimagine our future. It's all about changing the narratives around menstruation. Especially it is working on research, training, movement building at the local, national, and the global level. We are trying to reach out the UN, the global networks like Men Engagement Alliance, and wherever, whatever possible. Till now, in Global South Coalition, 9 countries officially on board as national coordinators. And more than 30 countries has already organizations from across the globe. They already become the member, and the interest of getting membership is increasing every day. Right now, we have chapters in Bangladesh, Philippines, Australia, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Uganda, North America chapter, that means Mexico, USA, and Canada, UK, and Austria. This is the dignified menstruation is all about the changing the narratives from impurity to purity, hygiene to dignity, 5 days bleeding to throughout the life cycle, even after the death in some cultures. And everyone considering the private business, women's issue. But we are saying, we are claiming that this is the political concern. It's a human rights issue. And it is beyond the gender policy. We keep talking about the gender policy since more than 5-6 decades. And none of the policies address the issues related with the menopause, related with the puberty, related with the menstruation. So this is the very high time to change, to go beyond the gender policy. We need to push our boundaries. We need to challenge ourselves to see the dignified menstruation at large. Before going to the dignified menstruation, we need to be clear on menstrual discrimination. Menstrual discrimination is an umbrella term. It refers to the taboos, shyness, restriction, abuses, violence associated with the menstruation throughout the life cycle of menstruators. That means girls, women, trans men, queer. And the menstrual discrimination is a form of sexual and gender-based violence and violation of the human right. It's not defined by us. According to the definition of the UN, this is the form of gender-based violence. And this is the violation of the human right. And the menstruators suffer throughout the life cycle. Let me give me one example. Why the global community is doing sex-selective abortion. I never hear about the abortion or termination of the boys. They find out the sex, and when they confirm the baby or the fetus is a female or girl, they terminate. The underlying cause, many people keep talking, this is the patriarchal mindset. But I wanted to go more than that. How does the patriarchy construct and set? Because the global major religious religions considered that the menstruation is impure. Once it says impure, that means menstruators are inferior, they are lower, they are powerless. And this is how they don't have a value even inside the womb and even after the death. So this is very critical and it's very emotional as well. Because of the menopause, we all are suffer everywhere. Individual, family, workplace, relationship, everywhere. We cannot segregate, we cannot separate. The whole body of the menstruators affect. But we never account it, never talk about it. It is more stigma than the menstruation. Menstruation, people just sometimes they think positively, oh, this is the matter of the fertility, this is the sign of the fertility, she is eligible for the marriage, she is eligible for the child birth. Somehow there is some sort of sympathy. But for the menopause, even there is no sympathy. Everyone forget about it. They have the baby, their babies are doing excellent work here and there, and they just fall in love. And they don't think the women who are suffering because of the varieties of the menopause. It could be the natural menopause, could be chemical menopause, and their suffering is not counting it. There is a deep level of silence, stigma, taboos, myth, misdiagnosis, and exclusion, losing job, losing family. In Nepal, few couples informed me that they got the divorce because of the menopause. This is really sad. Regarding the menopause, Helen, Sarah, they can explain more. You can ask with them. During our question and answer session, they suffered so much in their personal life, very inspiring, very emotional stories they have. And they also have so many activities going on. That is why they are more rich than me while talking the menopause. But I'm trying to triggering you. Let's assess the UN definition on sexual and gender-based violence. Any act that is perpetrated against a person's will and is based on gender norms and unequal power relationship. Based on that, UN identified the sexual violence, physical violence, emotional violence, and the deprivation from the resources. Even categorized in 4 types of sexual and gender-based violence. And if we go through the symptoms of the menopause, and it is everywhere, it falls everywhere, and there are multiple layers of the sexual and gender-based violence. And today, since 2015, the global community keep talking about the Sustainable Development Goals. If you see very minutely, overall, out of 17, 9 Sustainable Development Goals directly connected with the dignified menstruation. And if you go through the dignified menopause further detail, you can see the green liners, good health and well-being, SDG number 3, gender equality, decent work and economic growth, and the 16th peace. These goals are directly connected with the dignified menopause. But broadly, 9 goals are related with the dignified menstruation. So simply, we can say the 9 goals are directly connected with the dignified menstruation. Without having a dialogue on dignified menstruation, we cannot achieve the SDGs. So based on this background, we define the dignified menstruation. just opposite of the dignified menstrual discrimination. Dignified menstruation is a state of free from any forms of menstrual discrimination, includes stigma, taboos, abuse, violence associated with the menstruation throughout the life cycle of the menstruators within all identities. That means girls, women, trans men, queer, disabled, or any humanitarian crisis, everywhere. You can see in the bottom, all the time, everywhere, the human being with the uterus will be there. In COVID response, in a ICU, or any flood or earthquake, anywhere. So dignified menstruation is a holistic approach. It's a tool, it's a strategy, and it's a theory as well. To see our work, what we have been doing in the past, from the perspective of the human rights, development, and feminism. And we are missing a lot. We are not counting those people, human beings, who have a uterus. So regarding the 8th December, since 2019, we started to mark the 8th December as the International Dignified Menstruation Day. It is very important because the November 25 to December 10th is celebrating as a 16 days activism globally. They even have been celebrating it since 1993. So this 16 days is all about human rights or prevention of the sexual and gender-based violence, or celebrating the success around sexual and gender-based violence. So we picked up the 14th day for the dignified menstruation because the menstrual dignity is the human right concern. It is everyone's business. That is why we picked up the 8th December. And December itself a month of the human rights. So it has a significant value to choose that day. And menstrual discrimination itself, gender-based violence itself, a violation of the human rights, and it plays a role in for cause and effect for various types of gender-based violence. For example, she remained fail or absent, and later she trapped with the child marriage, and later she deprived from the well-paid job. So there are so many connections. Child marriage, economic opportunity in the childbirth. So there are so many things directly connected with the menstrual discrimination day to dignified menstruation. Last year, as Helen highlighted earlier, we organized first international workshop on dignified menstruation in partnership with the Ministry of Women, Children and Senior Citizens, the Government of Nepal, and National Human Rights Commission. That workshop concluded with the 12 points declaration. And we also released the book, Dignified Menstruation, a Practical Handbook, where Helen also included the topic of dignified menstruation equal to dignified menopause. You can find out in online in Nepal and globally. Many scholars are confused between the May 28 and the 8th December. In Nepal, few organizations claiming that the May 28 is a day of the Dignified Menstruation Day. This is really wrong. And I encourage to all my colleagues if you have any confusion, please feel free to ask. Even you can call me. We can have a separate meeting, but please don't misinterpret the issues. The May 28th is International Menstrual Hygiene Day. That it talks about not only the pad, it's the product, and it's only the one of the tiny part of the dignified menstruation. Dignified menstruation is a huge concept. It's a theory, and it talks about everything: was health, empowerment, sexual and reproductive health, human rights, everything it talks. And as I explained earlier, it demand, it urges to change the narratives, especially in 5 areas: from impurity to purity, from hygiene to dignity, from 5 days bleeding to throughout the life cycle, even after the death, from women's private business to everyone business, from private problem to political concern. So these are the main issues. It really challenges what we have been doing for last 2-3 decades. So we cannot merge the Dignified Menstruation Day into the May 28th. Likewise, if you see the scope relationship, but it has a total different. So we need to be very critical and honest while marking the day as well. These are the points from the last year's workshop declaration and call for action. I don't like to read everything because it is available everywhere in the website, in YouTube, everywhere you can find it. There is the report of the that workshop also available in the website. The website name is dignifiedmenstruation.org. And if you go through these 12 points, the dignified menopause is one of the very important agenda. And without talking dignified menopause, we cannot move on. We become the incomplete. The dignified menstruation concept will become the incomplete if we don't talk about the dignified menopause. Because dignified menopause is not a luxury, it's not a choice, it's a human right, and we all deserve. So while we talk the way forward, by considering the background, the global background on dignified menopause or discrimination during the associated with the menopause, we need to have a dialogue within the person. Other people talk about the for other, asking for the other stakeholders to think, to commit the promise or something like that. But I always believe that the individual persons have to change first. They have to transform, they have to challenge themselves first. So please ask yourself where you are. Are you really working for the menstrual dignity or menstrual hygiene or particular thing? Why you are working in a very silos? Working in a gender-based violence, working in the stopping rape, working in the sexual and reproductive health, really doesn't make any sense. You see, you may disagree with me, but this is the reality. Globally, we have a act on child marriage since 1920. That means it is already a decade. And even it started to work on since 1970. And still, the global data says there is no significant reduction in the child marriage. You know why? Because we are not talking about the dignified menstruation. Those girls who don't have a courage, who don't do the self-respect, who don't have a self-determination, who don't have a bargaining capacity with the parents, with the siblings, with the teachers, and how do they can say no for the child marriage, or how do they can say no for the intimate partner violence? So this is the high time to think, to reflect within yourself and within your house, school, workplace, and everywhere, including even. And globally, the home is not safe. the rape is happening, the sexual abuse is happening, and we all the time we are focusing on the branches, we are focusing on the fruits. We are not addressing the underlying cause. The underlying cause is menstrual discrimination. Menstrual discrimination play the role to construct the power since childhood. The research shows from the interaction with the parents, at the age of the 3, 4, 5, they already know somehow, their mother have a menstruation, that is why they are in the restriction, they limit by not entering into the kitchen or not touching the any main members or something like that. But they start to remember. They start to remember and start to rethink, reasoning themselves since the age of 6. Psychologists say so, and our research also confirmed that within the 6 to 12 years before the menstruation, girls has already know about the situation. They are impure, they are inferior, they are powerless, and boys consider themselves a power, privilege, and they are the pure. So that idea play to construct the patriarchy. We don't see the patriarchy, but we see the blood. And everywhere, every religion, most of the religions said the menstrual blood is impure. The menstruators are lesser. They don't have a value. They have the uterus. That is why they have to suffer. This is their business. That kind of things is happening. That is why on behalf of the coalition and the Dignified Menopause Summit, I encourage you to join the Global South Coalition and Dignified Menopause as a member, as a solidarity partner. And please, whatever possible, wherever you are, please start the campaign for the 8th December. If we all keep talking about the dignified menstruation, we can make impact, great impact, and also organize the trainings. If you need the resource person, Ellen, Sarah, and many friends are very expert in dignified menopause, dignified menstruation. We are very happy to join as a resource person for the training. And also we have the very we are in the very good times. Often I appreciate the corona. Because of the corona, everything is possible through the virtual. Otherwise, it is difficult. People don't accept. Oh, they have so many excuses. They don't have a network. They don't have a data, or they don't have a smartphone, something like that. But right now, yesterday I was talking with the friends from Niger and Canada yesterday evening, and this is really very fantastic. Everyone accepts the beauty of the virtual world, and we are very, very connected. And let's use the social media as much as possible, and let's continue the research, the surveys, online surveys, and let's disseminate the information, whatever we have. Sarah, Helen, and other colleagues prepared the book. It is called The Surgical Menopause, and that book we will be releasing on the upcoming summit in Nepali. I just finished the translation, and the design and other things is on progress. So let's translate our materials, whatever we have, and let's disseminate whatever possible from our end. Our grandmothers, our mothers do not speak about the dignified menstruation, dignified menopause. That is why we suffer, and we started to speak. We create the space for our future generation, and let's make the very dignified menstruation, dignified menopause for our future generation, for our daughters, for our granddaughters, and let's start to speak, and let's incorporate in our daily life. While we talk about the dignified menstruation, it's not only the project, it's not only the event or conference or project. It has to go 24/7 throughout our life cycle. Even the children, those who started the school, they have to know the dignified menopause. If they think since beginning about the menopause, they are more prepared. They are better prepared in better way. So let's keep talking about the dignified menstruation all the time. So we all think throughout the life cycle of the menstruators, and then we proud ourselves. Actually, we are not seeing ourselves as a equal human being, and this is the high time to incorporate, to hold the accountable within ourselves, breaking the silence, brush the myth taboos, and the holding the accountability at first within ourselves. These are the things I wanted to share. And if you like to know more, I'm always available 24/7. Please feel free to ask us. This is the presentation I prepared, and please share your opinion if you have any particular case. Sarah and Helen have more experience from their friends, and they are working as a mentor, as a coach. They are the expert. So you can share any kind of issue related with the dignified menstruation or dignified menopause. For us, dignified menstruation is equal to dignified menopause. We cannot separate. We cannot separate our life in a piece and a parcel. We wanted to see as a whole, as a human being, as a human creature, as a virtue of the human being.
I would just encourage everybody to, as I say, to hop onto either your website, dignifiedmenstruation.org, or dignifiedmenopause.org, and check them out and see what we're doing. I think it's as you were saying, Roger, I think we're in a really exciting and also a privileged time that we've got this ability to connect globally and to have our voices heard. And I think that's really unique, because I don't ever recall a time when we can have our voices heard and we can come together on platforms like this. So I think we're terribly lucky and terribly privileged. And that's also where I think we have to use our voice, because if we have a voice and we don't use it, I think that's unfortunate, and it doesn't help those who follow behind. I mean, Sarah, I don't know, is there anything you'd like to come in on? Because Sarah's really the equality, inclusion, and diversity expert. Would you like to speak to today, Sarah?
Thanks, Helen. Hello, Radha. Thank you. But just to say, I feel really privileged to be here. Like Helen said, it's amazing that we can connect in this way now and support each other's missions, really, to have a dignified menstruation, dignified menopause. I agree with Helen. It's quite pivotal moments, really, that we can do this together. And really, we want the inclusive element of menopause and menstruation to be heard. More people in the UK to understand what's happening globally, and raise awareness of the fact that there are so many perspectives in menstruation and menopause that people don't think about, that people are unaware of when they're hearing about menopause every day in the UK. So, I think this is, like Helen said, it's really exciting that we can be united in shining a light on dignified menstruation and really spotlighting the work that you're doing in Nepal. No? Thank you.
Do you like to share something? If you like to share in Nepali, that's also okay. I will translate. I know your English is good, but it's okay. You can share it either in any language.
धेरै राम्रो कुराहरु शेयर गर्नुभयो दिदीले मेनोपजको बारेमा। तर अहिलेसम्म हामीले कुरा गर्दाखेरि खास गरेर महिनावारी स्वच्छताको बारेमा मात्रै कुरा गरिराखेका थियौं, हैन? त्यसमा मेरो एउटा सानो एक्सपिरियन्स के छ भने, फिल्डमा घुम्दै जाँदाखेरि मेनोपजको बारेमा म एकचोटि दार्चुलाको अपि हिमाल गाउँपालिका जाँदाखेरि अब त्यस्तो दुर्गम ठाउँबाट
मन्जुजी तपाई अलिकति भन्नुहुन्छ अनि म अलिकति ट्रान्सलेसन गरौँ।
ए हुन्छ दिदी।
Okay, she's a Manju from the Dadaldura, the western part of the country, and she's working in an NGO, and she said she is happy and impressed with our presentation. she's on behalf of her organization, she's focusing on the menstrual hygiene, but she also have an experience of the women. She's going to share the story of the women about menopause. Manjuji, please.
अनि तालिम दिइसकेर फर्किँदाखेरि मैले एउटा आन्टी टाइपको लगभग मेनोपज भएको महिलालाई चाहिँ फर्केर जाने बाटोमा चाहिँ हाम्रो जम्का भेट भयो होइन बाटोमा। अनि उहाँलाई सोधेँ मैले कहाँबाट आउनुभयो के हो भनेर। यसो हाई हेलो गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ के भन्नुभयो भने 4 दिन हिँडेर त्यो दुर्गम गाउँपालिकाबाट हिँडेर एउटा स्वास्थ्य संस्थामा आफ्नो प्रेग्नेन्सी चेक गर्न आउनुभएको रे। यो बुढेसकालमा कसरी प्रेग्नेन्सी भएन भनेर भन्नुभयो। उहाँले आफू एकदमै आत्तिएर नजिक कहीँ थाहा नपाएर मेनोपज भयो, अब रोकियो महिनावारी, 2-3 महिना भयो, अब के गर्ने, म अब यो 4-5वटा बच्चा छन्, अझ पनि म भइरहेको छु, उमेर चाहिँ 45 पुगिसक्यो, यो बुढेसकालमा बच्चाले के गर्छु, म भन्न आएको, मलाई डराएर साह्रै आपत भएको थियो। हस्पिटल पुगेपछि जब चेक गराएँ तब म चाहिँ ढुक्क भएँ भनेर चाहिँ उहाँले आफ्नो स्टोरी चाहिँ सुनाउनु भएको थियो होइन। त्यो एकदमै मन छुने थियो कि, किनभने अब त्यति बेलासम्म पनि म चाहिँ महिनावारी बन्द भयो र यो सिम्टमहरू मलाई देखिन्छन् भन्ने उहाँलाई थाहा नहुनु होइन। र त्यो सँगसँगै अब उहाँले भोगेको मानसिक तनावहरू होइन, काममा डिस्टर्ब अथवा त्यो 4 दिनको उहाँको समयको खर्च, अब आफ्नो चाहिँ के भन्ने त्यसलाई त्यति कुराहरू दुःख पाएर चाहिँ उहाँले आउनुभयो। त्यसपछि मैले के रियलाइज गरेँ भने हामीले एउटा सेसन यसमा चाहिँ अनिवार्य थप्नु पर्दो रहेछ भनेर चाहिँ त्यसपछिका तालिमको इभेन्टहरूमा मैले चाहिँ मेनोपज सेसन थपेर चाहिँ अगाडि बढाएको छु। र मैले अब तालिम दिँदै गरेका अरू साथीहरूलाई समेत यो कुरालाई चाहिँ नछुटाइकन अनिवार्य रूपमा आमा समूहहरूमा तपाईँहरूले तालिम दिँदै हुनुहुन्छ भने यसलाई नछुटाउनु होला भनेर महिनावारीको कम्पोनेन्ट 3टै, सुरुवातको अवस्था, महिनावारी व्यवस्थापनको कुरा र मेनोपजको कुरालाई चाहिँ महत्त्वपूर्ण टपिकमा राखेर चाहिँ सेयर गर्न लगाइराखेको अवस्था चाहिँ अहिले आरबिडब्ल्युआरएमपीले चाहिँ यो 10वटै जिल्लाहरूमा जहाँ यसले तालिम चलाउँछ त्यता गर्दै राखेको छ। र यो कुरा तपाईँले पनि उठाइदिनु भयो, धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद। र यस्ता इस्युहरू धेरै छन् दिदी। गाउँतिर जाँदाखेरि अब वास्तविक समस्या भोग्ने महिलाहरू चाहिँ गाउँमा छन् होइन, जसले महिनावारीको र महिनावारीका संस्कारहरूको प्लस र मेनोपजका कुराहरूको चाहिँ भोगिराखेका छन्। त्यो कुराहरूलाई चाहिँ हामीले पनि उठाइदिनु पर्छ। अलिकति जोडेर चाहिँ जाने हो भने चेतना के अरे शिक्षाको कुराहरू पनि, ज्ञानको कुराहरू, अथवा उनलाई चाहिँ हामी के अवस्थामा छौँ, के गरिरहेछौँ होइन, त्यो कुराहरूलाई चाहिँ कसरी म्यानेज गर्न, व्यवस्थापन गर्न सकिन्छ भन्ने कुराहरूको ज्ञान दिइदियो भने पनि धेरै सहज हुँदो रहेछ कि जीवनयापनमा भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ मेरो भोगाइरहेको छ। थ्याङ्क यू दिदी।
हुन्छ, म भन्छु। सी एक्सप्लेन द स्टोरी encountering with a woman while working in the field in the West Nepal. A woman walked for 4 days to reach to the hospital. She wanted to confirm whether she has menstruation or not. She was so scared, emotionally so stressed. Financially also 4 days is not a joke for the rural part of the country, and she has already 5 children, and she was worried that she stopping menstruation means she considered herself as a pregnant, and that is why she went to the hospital to consult. And when she consulted with the doctor, and it was the menopause, and Manju deeply realized that the silence, the ignorance about the menopause, no one talk about the menopause, and that day she realized that this is a very important issue. And since then, while conducting any kind of training or discussion, she also included the menopause into her programs, and she also said this is the very urgent. And because of you, Ellen and Radha and Sarah and other colleagues started to speak on dignified menopause, it is very important, it is very urgent, and many of our women in Nepal, they don't know even the process, physiological process within their body. This is the things she said. It's a very emotional story, Sally. Thank you, Manjuji. We really appreciate, and I encourage you to write the case study and please share with me, and we can publish in a website.
Yes, I have already published this story in our website. Also, this is in our
Please share the link.
website.
Share the link, and
Yes,
we also
okay,
like to
thank
share
you.
this story. This is very powerful.
Yeah.
Let's close now. It is about 1 hour, and we will edit this video and upload in a YouTube as well. This is also informative about the conference and the dignified menstruation equal to dignified menopause. And this shows that the silence, the ignorance towards the menopause and overall dignified menstruation. That is why we need to keep talking, keep making noise, and we should not lose our patience. I say to Helen, I always not worry, even we don't have a single participant. Because we start our campaign without any expectation. We have our goal and we are very attached with our goal. So we see it, we assess the situation, but we keep moving. And then from this participation, we knew that we need to do different type of activities. I think usually we do the Facebook Live. This time we don't do, and people may confuse, but we will continue the discussion. And I think we need to do the another conversation with the Shera or someone about the menopause. And I'm looking for the opportunity to host from outside of the Nepal, like Sri Lanka or Bangladesh or Philippines, because inter-country exchange is very important. Okay. Thank you, dear. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Radha. Thank you, everyone.